I want to show you these 4 items, and let's see how good you are at home, what you can connect here. The one upper left box, these Brooklyn protests that are going on, not exclusively, I should say that is the, well, I'm going to just say what they will. They're Brooklyn protests for giving student loans. In London, the protests about the widening gap between the rich and poor. In Greece, these new austerity measures that a lot of Greeks do not like. And then these fast food worker protests demanding a $15 minimum wage. What do they all have in common? Well, demands for more, and demands for someone else to pick up the tab for more. I got Cheri Jacobus with me. I've got Jackie Kucinich, Sabrina Schaefer. Sabrina, and with you, begin with you then. Whatever your views on these subjects, there's only so much money in the pot. Yeah. So what do we do?
Well, I think one of the things that's coming clear is that people are so sort of deeply miseducated about some of these issues, and the idea is that we don't want to have a zero-sum game. We want to grow the pie for everyone. That poor girl who was on here with you earlier, I felt the thing that she was missing from the conversation is that the reason that tuition is so high and the reason that someone like herself is struggling is that government has gotten into the business of school loans. It has driven up costs, it has made colleges and universities irresponsible, and it's making her life and those of her friends harder. So I can sympathize with her, but she's miseducated in sort of the source of some of these problems.
But Jackie, the problem invariably is, and I can understand frustration when you're knocking against a stone, and a lot of these protesters in Greece and London who see that benefits they might have been promised, they have to take away. We're seeing that already in this country. If we hit a brick wall, how do you deal with that? How do you explain that to me? How do you explain math to people?
Well, how do you explain math to people? It's a really good question. But
and by the way, it's something on the right as well, because I had very few answers to basic questions. What would you take away? What would you pull back?
Well, and Democrats aren't the only ones offering plans and not saying how they're paying for it. With the I haven't seen a Republican tax plan, or a Democratic tax plan for that matter, that shows how these things are paid for. And that is the question. We're living in a time where the national debt just keeps getting higher and higher, and everyone in some way or another wants to spend more money, and it's got to come from somewhere. And well,
Cheri, it's the 1%. They always get vilified and all. Well, someone else pay it. I would much rather a lot of these protests come out. I'm happy to pay more for it, or to hear the fast food protesters who will happily pay more. Their friends will pay more. Those who are sympathetic to them for a hamburger and fries. What we've come to discover is they will not.
Yeah.
So if you're not opening up your own wallet to match your heart, methinks you've got a problem.
Yeah, well, methinks that everybody thinks the government just has this big pot of money. The government doesn't have any money till they get it from you and me and everybody else.
But is it enough to get it to the 1% when you have that gap, right? I mean, that's what they seize on.
The 1%ers, many of them get to be 1%ers because they started out in these minimum wage jobs and then learned how to run a business from those jobs, learned what it took to hire good employees and compete in the marketplace while still keeping these people. Look, and with regard to people wanting their loans forgiven, right now, something like 1/3 of undergraduate students get some sort of help from Pell Grants. The Department of Education, $150 billion. That's our money. This is the taxpayers. This is the U.S. government giving that type of help.
Well, that's to Sabrina's point. We feed the beast, right, and we know we'd intend to do that.
And they want more,
right?
And they want more.
But they don't see the dangers of that, or sticking someone else's bill, because that soon could be your bill. But that doesn't mean, well, like when I get answers from Republicans, that they have to clarify then how they're going to fix that.
They have to clarify it, and also just to take a step back, and she mentioned the minimum wage as well. This is one that, sure, I'm going to sound like Scrooge here, but the reality is I don't want to create any more barriers to entry, especially for young workers who need to get that early experience. I think that sort of what's missing here is sort of these students don't have a sense of how the economy operates, right? When you raise the minimum wage,
well, look who their professors are.
Right. Well, yeah, they're being indoctrinated, and so much of this, they don't realize that, guess what, a computer is going to replace that job at the
sounds like it's all Jackie's fault, then, pretty much.
Right. Well, I do think that education would really help this. When you're going to take out a student loan, you probably should be told what that means, when you're going to have to pay back. Because when you're 18 years old, you just want to go to school.
But do you think, because the parents are pushing this on them too, I mean, do you think that we should realize that the more money you give to provide support for an expensive thing only makes that thing more expensive?
That is true, but I do think when it comes to the person who is signing the papers, saying yes, going to be protesting
Absolutely.
someday,
right,
They need to know what they're getting into. And I just don't think that education is as out there, as available as it needs to be, with so many kids going to college and with college not getting any cheaper anytime soon.
Well, and it's also the quality of college. Some of the courses that are being taught don't need to be taught. You're paying for something you don't need.
Don't do the philosophy then.
And you're paying to create these special snowflakes that think that we're supposed to take care of them the rest of their life.
You're right, ladies. The bottom line is they all point out debt has gone up under Republican and Democratic administrations. The gap between the rich and poor has widened under Democratic and Republican administrations, and the Dow is down 170 points. I hope you're proud of yourselves. We'll do this.